Welcome to the event, Karthik. I also welcome all the participants from various states to this FTP program. Welcome you all. Over to you, Karthik.
Okay, thanks, ma'am. Thanks. So, good morning, everyone. I need some good morning response from y'all if you can unmute so that I can understand that I am audible to y'all.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, okay, sure. So, as Pallavi explained that I am
Good
working as a
morning.
data engineer. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, as Pallavi explained that I am working as a data engineer in IBM Software Lab. So, yeah, last year I joined as a data engineer and I'm working from last 1 year as a data engineer. So definitely it's been a quite challenging experience for me because I directly getting into data engineering domain from my college was a kind of a shift into my domain because when you graduate as an engineering student, you don't know the crux of data engineering aspects, and to directly get into big data, Hadoop, Spark, Scala, definitely it is a kind of shift. But yeah, over a period of time I was able to gauge most of the things. Still I am very intermediate or beginner level because if you see my team has a minimum experience of 10, 11 years. So definitely I am very lower kind of a child compared to them. So that is an advantage for me because I am able to learn many things from them. So yes, today we will dive deep or maybe give a brief introduction why we started with data science and what can be some career aspects, because there are too many job roles which are there in the market like data engineer, data scientist, data visualization engineer, machine learning engineer, statistician. All kind of job roles have come up in the market, but definitely there is some difference between them. So let's start and hope I all of you are keeping safe in this period because there is always an advantage of this because I see lockdown to be a major change in some of their careers because a lot of them are utilizing to learn new skills. This 3 4 months of time, definitely anyone can pick up some new skill. So utilize that into these kind of things, and definitely Modi is coming up with so many initiatives for Make in India. I am a very big fan of that. I always go for these kind of startups and all. I had 2 3 startups in past. Currently I am working on some new concept and idea, so I have dropped the other startups. So I will encourage that even if you have some students in your college who are interested or who come up with some innovative ideas, do guide them so that even if they are not able to reach to that level of turning it into a startup, at least they can publish a paper out of it. So do encourage them. Yeah. So let's see the agenda. As in, I will talk about need of data science, what is data science, some use cases I'll pick up in different domains, uh, business intelligence versus data science, tools used in data science, and life cycle of a data science. I'll pick up one example and I'll show you what exactly and how exactly the life cycle of data science is maintained. So why did we need data science? So first of all, everyone is aware that AI ML did exist 10 years or 20 years back also. The only reason why we didn't had this in the market that time was we didn't had the proper way of storing these data, as in the historical data which we are using it for doing whatever kind of prediction, decision making or pattern discovery we do at present. So if big data existed prior to it, definitely machine learning and AI would have got good market 10 years back itself. But then we didn't had proper resources that time. Cloud computing was not there in the picture, which is a major piece when we talk about data storage and mainly unstructured structured data. So just I'll talk about why cloud computing came into the picture. So if you see nowadays, if I have to start a startup from here, I need a lot of infrastructure resources to build my application and launch it and scale it in the future. So I will require RAM, CPU, 8 GB, minimum 8 GB RAM, or maybe if I have to scale 32 GB RAM, 8 CPU core CPUs. So for that resources to have it with me, definitely I have to pay a lot of amount, maybe 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, or maybe 4 lakhs for the same. But at the same time, what these cloud computing companies did, they brought all the infrastructure at one place, as in they made a home of those. We call it as data centers. So all the data centers had all the computing resources, storage resources, and whatever prediction, analytics, AI, ML, whatever they had, they put it on the data centers. So what advantage they brought is, if you need any resources, like you need 32 GB RAM, 250 GB SSD hard disk, you have to pay minimum 1 lakhs to 2 lakhs for the same. So what they did is, you can just ask, you have to come up with a requirement of whatever startup you are building, whatever requirement you have, and you just have to tell them, I need this resources because I need to check my MVP how it is working for me. They will give you for an hour, 2 hour, pay per use model is there. So definitely how much ever time you it will calculate for 2 hours, but now they have a second calculation. So definitely it saves a lot of time, money, and everything. So now whichever startups will have to launch their application in the market, they will directly go to AWS, IBM, or Google Cloud, and they'll say, I need these resources, please provide me this. They have all the setup pre-built on their backend. They will just assign you a username and they will just give you a place, as in, consider a data center as a lab, computer lab in your college, and they will give you one of the chair over there, and you, that computer which is assigned, is placed in front of you, is yours, and you can do whatever you want to do. In similar way, whatever people or whosoever startups or companies are coming up, they are giving one chairs to everyone. And in and uh, instead of that, they are charging only for the time you spend in that lab. The time you left the lab, that your money is not getting deducted anymore. So definitely it's a great aspect, like cloud computing came into the picture. And what the major aspect is, security part, because if you are storing some data which is very private to your company, definitely you have to have a good security aspects, and they have worked a lot upon that. If they are giving you one system over there, it's a completely isolated environment with the system which is beside you also. So they have a kind of a replication factor of 3 as well. If they are putting your data in one lab, they will put the same data in 3 other labs as well, which are in different places. Like Amazon has its data center in Mumbai. So in Mumbai they have 3 more data centers which can be 50-60 kilometers apart, so that if in case there is a kind of a tragedy or a disaster, one of the data centers is destroyed, then again the other data centers are still active. So they do the kind of a backup process from there. So what happened was, we had the data, we had unstructured data, data storage. These were the lack points which we were not able to recognize 10 years back. But with the advancement of big data and cloud computing, we are using these resources to do decision making, prediction, and pattern discovery. And this is why the revolution of data science came into picture. So why do we need data science? Like, if you talk about 5-10 years back, we had structured data. We used the concept of data warehousing. We had traditional BI, like we still have many BI tools like Tableau, Dundas, and we had predetermined report only, as in we used to make a report in Excel which will show us what kind of analysis we can do. Still now Excel has advanced to a great extent, we can do some kind of machine learning models in Excel as well. But yeah, talking about 5-10 years back, we didn't had that option in Excel. So now we have unstructured data. Previously we had structured data. So unstructured data, you can consider it as videos or maybe audio files, and we didn't had any processing power that time, as we were using the concept of data warehousing, which will deal with data which are in tables or flat files kind of structure, but it won't be handling unstructured and data. So for that we had a concept called Hadoop. Now it has now the system is changing to Spark, because Hadoop also has some of the disadvantages. The computing power which Hadoop gives is definitely low compared to Spark, because Spark will do all the processing of our data inside our memory, that is in memory computation it does. So whatever computation it does, it will utilize only the RAM memory. But in Hadoop, it doesn't do that. So definitely the time required for processing data using Hadoop is kind of 10 times less than Spark, or maybe in some cases it definitely goes to more as well. And previously we had BI tools which will just show the historical data, but with data science algorithms coming into picture, we can also predict or maybe visualize things in the future, as in what can be a possibility of the same data set which is coming from last 3 years and going forward in the next 6 months. And predetermined report only, and here it is scientific discovery, as in if you are able to use December. So these are the 4 months where we release the earnings, as in for the quarter, how much we were able to earn. I'm not sure how colleges work, but in IT industry, as I'm working in this kind of domain, so I can say that every quarter we'll release that this is the amount IBM earned in this quarter. And then for the next quarter, we tell that, this much amount is our predetermined amount, and we'll target this amount. So we should have some kind of scientific discovery with the previous quarter how IBM performed. Based on that, we can build some models which will give us great outputs, and it does helps us in taking great business decisions as well. Next, so there are some specific use cases which are mentioned, as in what kind of things data science can be used upon. It is not restricted to only ones which I have mentioned here. There are n number of use cases, and I do encourage every time that if you solve any one problem in the society which you see with your naked eye, that is more than enough for the government. If we have like 1 crore population who are students and who are professors, then definitely out of that, if we are able to solve 1 lakh problem, it can be a great boost to our economy as well. So let's see some of the use cases which can be solved. Recommend the right product to the right customer to enhance business. You would have seen in the Amazon portal or Flipkart portal that if you are buying something, that if you are buying a mobile phone, you get a recommendation that customers who bought frequently same product also bought some products, like it will recommend you a phone cover or maybe similar mobile phones or maybe something of that sort. So in this kind of business, Amazon is able to get a great profit, or Flipkart is able to get a great profit, because out of those 100 customers, at least 10 customers will buy that mobile cover, or that what we say, that protective guard of that mobile phone, then and there itself, because that's a necessity which has been made in the market by Amazon, that if you are buying a mobile phone, you have to buy that cover as well at the same time. Because if you wait for 2 3 days, definitely it's not an advantage for you, because maybe in those 2 days your mobile phone will fall down and it will break. So when they are recommending that product at that very moment, at least out of that 100 customers, 10 customers are buying at that very moment. So Amazon is able to get that kind of profit only by showing those two products at the time the customer is buying. I'll give you one more example of this. If you are heavily using Zomato, Swiggy, and all, I don't eat lot of food from outside, but definitely I do explore that app because it gives a lot of outputs to us. If you see that every evening or maybe every night, it will give you some recommendation or notification, not every, but maybe 2 3 days, that there is a discount going on with the nearest restaurant. If you are staying in Belgaum, maybe it will give you that in Rasoi there is a discount which is going on like 20% and it is valid till today. So out of 100 customers or 2000 customers which are in Belgaum, at least 50 or maybe 100 will open that page. That is called as a kind of lead generation for Zomato, because already that customer has entered that page and have started seeing the recipe or menu for Rasoi which is having a discount of 20%. So by seeing that, at least 50 are buying that menu at least that day. So out of 2000 customers or 200 customers, at least 10% are buying that food from Zomato just because of that push notification that I sent that day. One more observation is, if you go and just see sweets today in the evening, the next day or maybe next to next day you will get a notification that there is a sweet shop which is having a discount. Just because you explored sweets, it will just give you an example that there is a discount of sweets, because based on your previous history they know that you are very much interested in sweet shop, so they are started recommending only sweet shop to you for a couple of days, so that at the end of the day you will get irritated or maybe you will get fantasized and you will buy that product. So that is the kind of customer company relation they are trying to build, and they are trying to rule over the customer. They are trying to understand the mindset what the customer has, and they're trying to build upon that. So next is build intelligence and ability in machines. Yeah, if you see, Amazon has already started delivering products using their robots. And if you know about their data, as in warehouse where they keep the products, they also have robopods over there which will keep the things at the right place. As in, if a mobile has to be delivered to Bangalore, and at the same time one mobile phone has to be delivered to maybe Mumbai, then the pods or maybe the robots which place that mobile phone at the right place from where that mobile has to be taken for delivery. So that is a kind of already implemented thing which Amazon has already done. Predict fraudulent transactions. Yeah, so e-commerce transactions do happen a lot of times, as in where we have a lot of fraudulent transactions happening from different IPs, as I explained earlier. Perform sentiment analysis to predict the outcome of elections. So it is a very common use case which I see that every final year students are picking up this use case and performing this, maybe for Twitter analysis or maybe for movie recommendation something. They are performing a sentiment analysis. But I, whenever I give webinar, I do tell them that do add your extra point in that, because most of the code is already available on internet. But what is your unique piece which you can add to that will add or help you to get a good job in the market. Because sentiment analysis for election is fine, that you will tell BJP or Congress will win, but when you are going for this kind of analysis, you should also provide a descriptive analysis, as in why Congress is winning in Belgaum or why Congress is not winning in Karnataka. These kind of information will definitely help us to know whether you have gone in depth and researched for that. So any project, if you're working, take the things from Google, not a problem. Most of the things are available on internet, but do add your part on that, as in your innovation in that, which can help to maybe learn and maybe help you to understand that concept in depth as well. So what is data science? So data science is a blend of various tools, algorithms, machine learning principles to discover hidden patterns from the raw data. So raw data, let's talk about raw data first. So as a data engineer, what we do is we pick up the raw data, and raw data I mean is it can be anything. It can be structured, unstructured, anything, and it can be in any format. So data science is all about getting the right data, and performing some kind of algorithm on it to get some insights out of it, which will help us to make some good decisions and predictions. So as a data engineer, what we do is we have many sources. Like if you're talking about the college itself, you see that students are coming from different geographies. Consider them to be n types of sources from where we are getting students. In the similar way, we have n types of sources from where we are getting data, and every student is not same. But what we do over the period of 3 years and 4 years, we try to align them to the same level by teaching them the same subjects. In the similar way, we do a lot of transformation on top of that to get them at the same level in which we want to process that, because their database will have their own structure, and my database which we have will have their own structure which my business requires for the transformation. So in similar way, you what we do is we bring those students at the same level. We teach them same subjects so that everyone has their in their resume mentioned all the subjects which they have learned over 3 4 years of time, and then the students go for interviews. In our case, what we do is we get all the data in the right format, and then we go for visualizing that data to the outside world. We show it to the client, as in, this is the kind of insights we have generated from the data. This is the raw data. We picked up this, we did this transformation, and we are able to get this output. So yeah, data science is basically taking historical data, throwing it to the model, and the model will give you some insights. It is totally dependent on the use case which you are solving, but it does help in decision making and predictions. So now let's understand data science with the help of some use cases. I picked up some use cases. I'll maybe talk about more use cases other than PPT, but yeah, let's go into it. So sports, if you are aware of, they have a data analytics team for every. If you talk about cricket, football, hockey, any sport you talk about, every team has one data analytics team which works with them constantly, and they will roam around with them constantly with the team wherever they go. So what kind of inferences they take out from that is, if you talk about cricket, I am a very big fan of cricket, and I did represent my state also in cricket. So I'll just talk about cricket first. So if you talk about cricket, if I'm playing for a state level cricket, I play a season, as in 12 matches I play. I see that in 12 matches I performed well in 5 matches, and other 7 matches I was not able to perform well. As in, if I'm a batsman, I did get opportunity. I scored 10, 15 runs in those 7 matches, but I was not out, or maybe in some of the matches I was played out. But until unless we are clear about the statistics and the data analytics part, how I performed, how I hit the ball, what was the percentage of ball which was hitting my middle of the bat, what kind of shots I was playing on the right side or the left side, you would have seen a lot of analytics already there. If you see any presentation shows which are happening in IPL also, they do a lot of analytics. They Harsha Bhogle, if you know, he himself is a founder of Dream 11, if you are aware of it, and he himself does a lot of research in these things, and that is why he came up with a model of Dream 11, because lot of things and market are still there in any sport if you see, and people are investing a lot of amount in that. So if you see football and basketball and hockey, they run on same aspect, that if I see that in a match how many balls I was able to pass correctly, it may be football, hockey, or basketball. What was the accuracy of the pass? How frequently I was able to basket? Out of 50, how much I was able to basket? So there are some average pass time of the ball, as in, if I am getting a ball, how much time I am holding it in a hand. But if you see for other players, they are able to release the ball very at a very fast rate. So definitely I have to improve that skill for the next match or going forward, so that the coach will be aware of what is the advantages and disadvantages of the player, and he can work on that aspect for that player. Number of successful passes, accuracy, area of court the player on average is shadowing, as in how much the area is covering. Maybe that some players are not covering the complete area of the court, so the coach will be aware that he can help the that player by talking about these kind of demerits what he is having, and to match the same level with the team they are moving, because ultimately it's a team game, so every player has to be uniform and maybe match their level and play, maybe complement each other to play properly. So next we will talk about some other use case. uh, so Amazon, as I spoke about, Amazon has huge amount of consumer purchasing data. The data consists of consumer demographics. It has all the details if you see. we fill all the complete details without even thinking that these details are being used by the Amazon to generate some great insights. But yeah, as it is a requirement, we do have to fill those details. They know all about our purchasing history, past browsing history. So I don't know how many are aware of it. Like Google also has a timeline. Google timeline, if you see in Google Maps, and it will track each and every place we have visited from the day we bought our phone and we are using Google Maps. So if you see, check out today also. If you see, it will tell you yesterday where you visited, or maybe day before yesterday where you visited, and that is the same concept which Arogya Setu app is using for tracking the people on whichever places they have visited. Like 2 years back, when I saw that it is telling me each and every places I visited, so that time I was shocked because then my parents will be able to track me that which all places I am visiting. So definitely it's a good thing, but definitely it's private data which they are capturing, and they tell that they do not share these data with anyone. But still, some issues and court legal issues are still on Google, so which they are figuring out. So what Amazon does is Amazon will segment its customer, draw a pattern, and recommend the right product to right customer. So we will have a complete use case discussion on this part tomorrow, because I have picked up marketing and sales as a use case study, which I will be deep diving into it and explaining each and every crux about it. So let's keep this for tomorrow, and let's go ahead. So Google self-driving car is very like 50 years back, or maybe 30 years back. Continental was a company who started with self-driving cars. So I guess they finished few months back their 50 years of self-driving car, but still companies are still working on it. They have not yet reached the level which they should be, so that they can easily get this into the market and people can start using it. But a lot of research and hard work is still going on. So you will be aware of it, how they are working on. Lot of sensors are kept in the car, and lot of cameras are there which will take every picture of every turn and every you can say a hole in the road, so potholes in the road. So definitely what it does is, the next time when it is visiting that same road, he is aware, because he has stored in his database that there is a turn which is coming up with the help of sensors and the image it has captured. At the very same time, that car will be also aware of the potholes which he had detected over a period of time, and he will be aware that after 50 meters there is a pothole which is coming, so he has to slow down by 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. So a lot of work is still going on. I had worked on a similar use case with a company called Continental. I was interning in my third year over there. So I had worked on a kind of lane changer application, as in, if a car is moving at 100 kilometers per hour, so the sensors will be able to see 100 meters back and 100 meters ahead any car is coming or not, and based on that it will automatically change the lane. So I had worked on this use case and it was very interesting, and it is already in the market in Germany. So a great use case, but definitely still lot of works are going on. And you can also think on some use cases which can be picked up on these areas, because these areas are still which are being researched upon. And I tell people to research upon areas which are still empty, because if you see agriculture domain, it has a lot of maybe open ground where we can do a lot of research in AI and ML, and lot of things can be built over a period of time. So in agriculture, I am researching on a use case. It's like, if you see agriculture farm, we have a lot of satellite images already with ISRO and many other satellites of USA. So if I pick up 5 years images of any agricultural farm, and if I try to visualize it or analyze it, at least I'll get to know in which month which crop is getting cultivated and which crop is performing well. So it's a great knowledge for me, because I can use that same knowledge only seeing the past data and tell farmer that in March this crop is going well, in April this crop is going well. Even if they know that they have read in books that for this month this crop is good, but with the climate change which is happening and everything is going to extreme, those things are changing over a period of time, and maybe they won't be aware or they may not see the historical data to understand what kind of changes are happening in their agricultural farm. So what research I am doing is seeing the images of past and the crop which performed well, combining it with the climate which is taking place, or maybe the predictions of climate which is going to take place in the coming years. I'll combine them and tell which crop you can grow, which at the soil which they have in their farm. So I am doing some kind of research on that. Let's see. But definitely it's a great use case because it will help the government to invest a lot of money in that. Because if suppose I know that this area this month will have a good sugar cane, definitely government will invest more money and they will start exporting the same thing. So that is a use case I'm working on. So if you see, there are a lot of use cases in different types of domains. Let's start with social media, sentiment analysis, as we spoke about, digital marketing. So if you see a lot of digital marketing campaigns which are coming up, if you whenever you scroll down to LinkedIn, if you see about Facebook or Instagram, you will be seeing each and every company will have their post or maybe something. But if you are aware of Google Analytics, it provides a lot of great insights to us. Suppose I have a website, maybe a college website, or maybe you can say about e-commerce website. So what we do is, Google Analytics we do at the backend is, whenever a user is visiting this website, I will get a kind of a data stored from which IP address the user came to my page. Next, what it does is, if I move my cursor on that page and try clicking something on that page, what Google Analytics will do is, they will consider that user as a kind of interested user, or maybe aware, or maybe you can say it as a lead generation in marketing terms, because that user showed some interest on that page, or maybe some user will come to that page and directly close that page. That is not considered as an interested user because he didn't spend even 10 seconds of time on my page. But the user who went, scrolled his mouse, checked every detail of the page is an interested user for me. Next time he is coming to my page, what I'll do is, I will recommend that same user who showed interest that please go and check this page. There is an interesting discount going on for you. That user will click that page and go to that page. So Google Analytics and maybe many other analytics engine is there which is running at the back end. So they store these kind of details. There are n number of parameters which are getting stored, and those helps us to do or maybe improve the page as well. We'll definitely talk about it tomorrow in the session more in detail. But yeah, in short, this is what they are doing. So marketing, cross selling. By cross selling, it means like you are talking to a company, and that company is helping you to sell that product for you. You are not selling that product, but that company, as he is a client of yours, he is helping you to sell your product for yourself. Predicting the lifetime value of customers, we'll talk about in depth tomorrow. We'll not go into that now. Disease prediction, yeah. So today, in the life cycle of a data science, I'll talk about one disease prediction. Discount offering to the demand forecasting, yeah. Claims prediction, as in uh, how much claim, maybe suppose if I'm going to a bank and ask for a loan, so bank also has a kind of a great historical data on which they will decide whether we should offer bank loan to the person or not. And claim prediction is like, if you had an accident or something of that sort, you claim to the company that I need a claim of 1 lakh for my car to be done. So based on that, they also have a historical data. Based on that, they predict whether that claim is correct or not. Healthcare sector, definitely a lot of research is going on, and with COVID in the picture, this industry is going to get a lot of investment from WHO or maybe world and maybe India as well, because there is a lot of scope as they have identified now. Previously, because COVID was not there, there was no such research or investment was put up. There was, but the awareness was not there. But now these things will pick up. Travel, the tourism industry is closed, but if you see, there is a lot of scope which is going to come up in the market going forward, like 3 4 months, when the things get to normal. See, if you see, during corona time, if I want to visit any shopping, maybe a shop, in similar way you can take it as a tourism place. If I want to visit a tourism place in my city, suppose I have a tourism place on the north side and one place on the south side, and I plan to go anywhere, so I will be tentative as in which place will have more crowd and which place I should visit and which place I shouldn't visit. In that case, what use case which we can come up with is, we can start recommending the person that the north side is not much crowded, you can visit that place, but the south side is crowded. So that is a case which can help us in the future as well, and can be used for social distancing aspects as well. Similarly, if you talk about shopping malls, when it opens, what we can do is we can recommend which shopping mall is having less crowd and it is good to visit. But the other one is very crowded. Please don't visit that at least for 2 hours. So that kind of recommendation will start helping us to kind of move ahead in the life properly, or maybe go to a place which is less crowded and get away with these kind of COVID related social distancing aspects. So skills of data scientist, mathematics. Yeah, mathematics is important because when you are becoming a uh, term called data scientist, so he will be solely a person who will be aware of end to end of the project, right from data engineering, data analyst, and data scientist. This is a life cycle: data engineer, then data analyst, then data scientist. So what happens is data scientists will work with data engineers as well, with data analysts as well. So what data engineers will do is just take the raw data, transform the data into the right format, and give it to the data analyst. In many companies, we don't have data analyst, so the data engineers will only work as a data analyst as well, because they have a great understanding of the data, because they have been doing all the transformation on top of it. Now, data analyst will pick up those data, generate some good insights out of it. Maybe he'll say that in my website, I see that every Sunday I get a lot of users from USA, and every Monday I get a lot of users from China. So that is an interesting part or insight which can be used by the data scientists to build their model. And with data analyst, we also have business analyst which work closely to each other, which the business analyst will keep on providing the business requirements to a data analyst so that they can generate some great insights which can be used to generate the model. Now the data scientist will take all the things, the data, the insights, and they will start recommending or making the algorithmic changes which is required to get into the production. So all the three will work continuously with each other, and there will be a kind of question in your mind that once that model is deployed in the production, it's done. No, every day we get some new data set. Every 15 days or every 30 days, we have to keep that iteration or iterative process going on. Because today I had a data set telling that I get on Monday 100 users from USA, but going forward it can be like I've started getting 100 users from India on Monday, and USA I am not getting any users. So again we have to train my model. Again I have to rethink on my strategy, as in what can be the new strategy or insights which can be generated. So it's a kind of iterative process which keeps on going, and none of the companies will say that my model is done and now don't have to spend the time over there. We have to keep on working on that and keep improving over a period of time. So rule of a data scientist is to select the features, as in if I am giving a data to that, the data scientist will tell me which all features have to be selected out of it and build the classifier or a model out of it. Data mining, what we do is we go to different sources and mine the data and get
into a proper format, extend companies' data with third-party sources of information when needed. So we in IBM also what we do is we do have third-party sources from where we get data, because every data cannot be tracked by IBM. There are some companies which are just working on different companies' clients to get that data, as in how much revenue that company is generating, how much clients they have. Those kind of data maybe third-party company is storing. So what we do is we just buy the data from there, processing, cleansing, and verifying the integrity of data for analysis. Yeah. So, in short, if you talk about data sets, there will be a lot of missing values, or maybe there will be a lot of outliers. So, we do have to rectify those before building the model. Building predictive models using machine learning algorithms. So, in short, data scientists will be responsible for designing and predicting processes and
Sir, your voice is not audible, sir. Hello, sir. Your voice is not audible.
Karthik, you're not audible.
Am I audible? Can someone confirm me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're
Okay, yeah.
audible.
Okay, thanks. Able to see my screen?
Not yet, sir. Not yet.
Let me know when it's visible.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So if anyone can confirm till what part you were able to hear, because I didn't realize that I my voice is not coming.
So can you go one slide back? Back. Reverse. Hi. Yes, sir. That one.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Responsibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So
Thank you.
I did sorry for that because I didn't realize because my Wi-Fi is also working fine. Not sure why what happened. No problem. So I did talk about a role of a data scientist. So what they do is they will help us in selecting the features, as in what columns or what rows can be used in building a model, because every use case or business requirement will have different kind of knowledge which has to be given to the data analyst and data engineers, so that based on that they can work on those columns. And building and optimizing classifiers, as in optimize the model to the extent by using hyper parameter tuning and all. We also use data mining, because data mining is where we go and dig to the different sources of data from where data is coming and just try to show them what are the pieces of data which are coming up and can be used as a modeling purpose. We also go and buy data from third party sources, because maybe at the end of the day we do not have the complete data which IBM is tracking, but maybe we can get it from the users or maybe companies which are tracking all kind of data. We do process, cleanse, and verify the integrity of data for analysis, because if you talk about cleaning and processing, until unless you have the data set in the right format, it is very difficult for any machine learning model to understand that. So when we talk about cleansing, it means like not only getting into the right format but also removing like outliers. Suppose in case what we deal with is a lot of missing values will be there in our data sets. So what we do is we just replace them with the average of the data set with that column is already has. And when we talk about outliers, in many cases it happens like there is a value set for a column, like it should be between 0 to 10, and we see that a lot of data points are coming which has a value more than 10 or maybe 15, 20 or 100 also. So we do have to detect those outliers, because if those are fed into the machine learning model, it may be not able to give the right output to us. Building the predictive models using machine learning algorithms, by using these four things, we do build the machine learning models which can be used for making the right decision. In short, data scientists will be responsible for designing, creating processes, layouts for the complex, large-scale data sets used for modeling, data mining, and research purpose. So this modeling, data mining, and research purpose are being done by data engineers and data analysts, but data scientist is a person who will be solely working with all three part, and he has to kind of work as a manager, analytics engineer, data scientist, machine learning engineer. So he knows in and out of all the projects, and he also has the business understanding as well. So next is BI versus data science. So BI did exist 5-10 years back as well, but then nowadays we have moved into data science. Still BI is there, but the purpose is different. It also shows. So let's see the difference. It will be looking backward only on the historical data, but when it comes to data science, it will be looking at the forward. What can be the prediction going forward in the next 6 months or 1 year or 3 years? That is the kind of result data science can give you. It deals with structured data. Often we call it as data warehouse, but data science can deal with unstructured and structured both. So unstructured, we have NoSQL database like MongoDB, Cassandra, HBase. These database came into picture when we started dealing with unstructured data.
approach is statistics and visualization, as in we deal with maybe some statistical figure like mean mode, standard deviation, those kind of things, and we tried to get some results as we had just the historical data. But when we come to data science, it will give some machine learning algorithms, graph analysis, NLP, and help you to get some great insights which will be coming up in the future. Focus is on past and present, whereas here the focus is on present and future. There are many tools like Microsoft BI, ClickView of Google, R, Pentaho, Tableau as well. In data science, we have BigML, Auto AI, Auto ML, which has come up in the picture. Veka. Veka is very widely used in colleges, and students also use it because there is no coding knowledge required for the same. And the only thing what we have to do is we just have to load your data set, pick up the algorithm which we need, and the results and outputs and insights will be given to you. So it's interesting thing. Maybe you can explore, but yes, Auto AI and Auto ML is also a great maybe thing in the market which we can utilize it for building the model as in MVP, because it will not give you accurate accuracy. It is able to give some 70-80% accuracy, not more than that, because it doesn't require any coding skills. You just have to place your data set. It will train the model on the algorithm seeing the data set. There you don't even have to check which algorithm you have to choose. It will be done automatically by the model behind which is running there. So common tools which are used by data scientists are, for data analysis they use R, Spark, Python, SAS. For data warehousing we use Hadoop, SQL, Hive. For visualization we use R, Tableau, Raw. Many other tools are there. For machine learning we use Spark, Mahout, Azure ML Studio. We also have Amazon SageMaker. We also have IBM Watson Studio. So there are many tools which are there in the market. We can definitely try some tools, because uh, even if you are not aware of coding aspects, but initially whenever we are starting these kind of domain into data science or machine learning, we should explore the things to build that interest. Because if you directly get into the mathematics of any algorithm, see, it will be very boring initially. But if we explore some use cases, get into that, solve some use cases, maybe with zero coding also, definitely it's an add-on, because you have a kind of a business understanding there. So what if we could predict the occurrence of diabetes and take appropriate measures beforehand to prevent it? Definitely, let me take you through the steps to predict the vulnerable patients. So I'll take you through one use case and I'll show you the life cycle of a data science. So by the end of the this webinar, we'll be able to finish this use case. It won't be hands-on, but definitely I have put up all the things on the slide which will be very helpful for you, so that you can visualize and see things which and how the life cycle is maintained in data science. So first step is discovery. As we talked about, like we go do the data mining from different sources and try to discover what all data we have to use it. Then we start preparing the data. Data preparation is where we take the raw data and we try to bring it in the right format which our team needs. Model planning is where, seeing the data set, we try to identify whether we should go for random forest or whether we should go for logistic regression. So these kind of discussion will happen over here to understand which model we should go for. And in this we do a lot of uh, ifs and buts, because we see a lot of statistical figure, like we find out correlation between columns, as in if this column A is increasing, is column B is also increasing. If column C is decreasing, is column A increasing? So these kind of things we see when we are doing the model planning part. Model building, as in, as we have the right data over here, we have the model decided, then we go into the building part. We start building the machine learning algorithms over here. Here these two things are operationalized. By this what we mean is we are tuning the model to the right format. Suppose today I build the model, I got the accuracy of 90%. I see going forward in the next month, my accuracy is decreasing because the data set which is coming is different. As in, we had an intuition that the range will be 0 to 100 for a data set, but now it is happening like every time it is more than 100. So here what happens is our model start losing the accuracy. So what we do is we tune the model in that way that it will constantly keep checking if the model is getting a lower accuracy, we have to do something. And with Docker, Kubernetes, OpenShift coming into picture, DevOps world is ruling these things, and it is automating these hyperparameter tuning. How it is working is, if they see that the accuracy is going below 80, what they do is they will automatically tune the model to some different value. Suppose there is a term called learning rate in neural networks. So what they will do is, if the learning rate is 0. 0.1, it will change it to 0. 0.2 and check the accuracy whether it increased or not. Until and unless it has increased to 90%, it will keep tuning the model. So things are getting automated there as well. So going forward, I don't see like none of the things can be automated. The only thing which cannot be automated is we have to do is data preparation and data cleaning, as because that cannot be done until unless we have the right business understanding, and that we cannot explain to the computer or system to understand and train the model, because every use case will be different. But yeah, these can be done easily. Next is communicate the results. We do communicate the results to the client, as in we were able to reach 90% accuracy. We'll show them in the dashboard how the dashboard is looking and everything, and based on that they can help us to identify or rectify what else or what next we have to do. So this is the life cycle. So let's get into the use case now. So discovery involves acquiring data from all the identified internal and external sources that can help answer the business question. As I told you, whatever data we pull it from different sources, we have to align it with our business question which the team has asked for. We cannot just directly put in whatever data set we got from different sources and place it in the model. This data can be logs from web servers, social media data, census data, data streamed from online sources via APIs. So yeah, these kind of data, sometimes we'll have these with our company itself, but maybe some data we do have to buy, because we cannot keep track of every data sets. Some companies are already doing, so we do have a third party from where we take these data sets. So when we are talking about diabetes use case, let's see which all columns we'll consider in this case. We'll consider number of times the person has been pregnant, maybe a female or a male. It can be possible. Glucose, as in what is the glucose concentration, blood pressure, skin, BMI, age, and income. So we'll consider these columns for our identification whether that patient will have diabetes or not. So doctors get this data from the medical history of the patient, so they readily have these data with them. It can be in this format. If you see the format of the data which we are showing it over here, one thing you see, income is an irrelevant attribute in the prediction of diabetes, but still we have kept it. Let's see how we can deal with it. Data preparation. Data can have a lot of inconsistencies like missing values, blank space columns, abrupt values, incorrect data format, which need to be cleaned, as I explained earlier. It is required to explore, pre-process, and condition data prior to modeling. This will help you to spot the outliers and establish a relationship between the variables. As I spoke about, that we need to establish a relationship between the columns we have. So we check about correlation, as in, is column A dependent on column B or column C is dependent on column A, because that will help us to generate some great insights and help in modeling as well. So this is the phase where we do the data preparation. So this data has a lot of anomalies and needs cleansing before further analysis can be done. If you see this column npreg, there are all numerical values, but here we see that there is a column or maybe a data point which is having 1, as in the character over here. So definitely it's a kind of a place where we are not able to show that my model should read either numericals or it should read the characters. So in this case, what we do is we will replace this either with some numerical value or we will change it to some value. Let's see, I have it in next slide. Here you see that it is a blank column. So maybe the data model will not be able to see the result of this 15th person. I will not able to see that what is the glucose level. Then definitely my model will not perform well. BP, if you see, generally the maximum rate is 180 or something odd. Here it is 6,600. Definitely it's a odd point for us. So these things taking into consideration, what we do is, there was a character or maybe a string in my previous slide. Now I have replaced it with 1. Glucose was blank. What I did is I took out the average of this column and placed the value over here. BP was 6,600. What I did is I removed this value and took the average of this and put it in this kind of value. Similarly, for the places where I had blank spaces, I took out the value and placed it there. So this is just a kind of small thing which I am showing, but in real world there are a lot of data preparation which will happen, because there are n number of things which happen, and we have to deal with every kind of thing to get in the right format. Next is model padding. Here we determine the methods, techniques to draw the relationships between variable. Apply EDA, a very important term in machine learning, because here is what we get all the insights from the data sets using various statistical formulas and visualization tools. These are some of the tools which I have mentioned. There are many more tools in the market. And if you see these kind of maybe we use a library in machine learning called matplotlib seaborn to get some insights like histogram, line graph, box plots, to get some fair distribution of data. So these kind of analysis is done by data analysts to get some insights and talk about it to the data scientist team or maybe data engineers to get some real insights and start working on the modeling part to build the model. Model building is where develop data sets from training and testing purpose. Yeah, so a very important term in a machine learning model is when we divide the data set into training and testing. So usually we go by term 70-30, 70% training, 30% testing, but it is totally dependent on the use case which we are dealing with, because it cannot be restricted to that. Sometimes it may happen that we have to go with 90 and 10%, but it totally depends on the use case. Consider whether existing tools will suffice for running model. We analyze various learning techniques like classification, association, clustering to build the model. So we have these terms. I maybe I'll take one 5-10 minutes section tomorrow where I'll explain you machine learning and their classification into different algorithms and models. Just to give you a brief, and then we'll deep dive into use case study on sales and marketing. So this is how where we deal the model part, and we build the model where we have to use the classification, regression or clustering part, and we start building the model. Next is operationalize. Model building, I gave you an example, as in we have used over here a decision tree. So if you are aware of flowcharts, how flowcharts work, flowcharts will work on true and false. Suppose if I have a condition whether a person will be able to pay the loan or not, if yes, it will go to some other phase. If no, it will go to some other branch. Similarly, decision tree will also work. If glucose level is less than equal to 127, then this is pregnant. If it is greater than 127, then maybe the glucose level is maybe a problematic for me. So in this case we divide it into different branches and we try to get the output from it. As think of it as a flow chart which we learn in computer science. Similar way, this also decision tree also works. So operationalize is deliver final reports, briefings, code and technical documents, implement pilot project in real-time production environment, look for performance constraints if any. So we build the POCs, we deploy it into the real world and try to get some insights and maybe check out which can be used or maybe which POC can be used and which can be shown to the client. It may not be always a 100% accurate result, but 70-80% is also a good result when we go for any machine learning model. One thing I want to add is machine learning models will never give 100% accuracy, and we cannot rely on machine learning models completely, but definitely it helps in decision making and to get some insights what can be in future. At the end of the day, the business or maybe the client only had to take the decision, but it will have a kind of a insight that how maybe going forward 3 years my company will be able to generate 100 million. But if we don't have that kind of insight, maybe that company will not be able to invest that amount to get to that reach level of 100 million. So that kind of insight is definitely very helpful. And the same what we do is we communicate those results to the stakeholders. In this case, we explain the model and result to the medical authorities, because we were able to tell whether, based on the decision tree classifier, that whether that person will be a diabetic patient or not, based on the uh, parameters which we had taken for. So that's it from life cycle part. The last results is like diabetic uh, positive set had glucose level of greater than 154. If they had glucose 127, greater than 127, and BMI in this range, that can be also a diabetic patient. So these are the kind of conclusion we were able to derive with that, because our model was able to predict that. And these insights can be used by the medical authorities to identify whether that patient can be a diabetic patient or not. So at times what happens is these numbers will be readily available with the medical authorities, but they are not able to utilize the same numbers. But in the same case here, what we see is if we are able to utilize these numbers, the same can be used and can be helpful for anyone to get the result out of it. So that's it for me, but I will talk about the job roles I had in mind to explain you what kind of job roles we have for different field in data science. Till then, you can ask any questions if you have, and we'll talk about these. You can unmute and ask questions.
A kind request to all the participants. In case if you all have any queries, kindly post. You all can unmute your mic and post the question, or also you can type it on in the chat box.
DataCamp had given a complete research as in what job roles I had. I had picked up that. I am, if I'm not able to get, maybe I'll share it with you all tomorrow, but not an issue. No issues. We can check it out tomorrow. Yeah, I got it. So if we have any questions, let me know. Uh, I don't see
Yeah,
any
Karthik.
questions. Yeah.
Karthik, I didn't get any question. I in the chat, neither vocal questions.
Okay, sure. I'll take those. So let's be clear on the job roles which we have, because there is a lot of maybe confusion in various job roles we have. So we have data scientist, data analyst, data architect, data engineer, statistician, database administrator, business analyst, data analytics manager. So these roles we have. Apart from that, now the DevOps world is getting a lot of boom, and they have started putting DevOps job roles in this as well. So let's see for data scientists what they should know. So the languages is pretty much on their part. We should know R, SAS, Python, MATLAB, SQL, Hive, Pig, or Spark. That is totally on the use case or the company which they are working in. It can change based on that. Skills is they should know about distributed computing, predictive modeling, storytelling, and visualizing. Very important concept, because they are the one they have to talk to the client, tell them what story they have built over a period of time in that life cycle which we had built just 5 minutes back, and they have to put the results forward in that manner in which the client will be really appreciating and will be able to buy that product. Because at the end of the day, as I said, machine learning will not give you 100% result. It will just give you some inferences or insights which can be helpful in getting some good business results or gives good business outputs. Next is maths and statistics, very important for a data scientist. Statistics and mathematics is a area which I feel every student should surely get into it and explore that, even if they are not very good at mathematics, but even they should try to start from scratch, maybe linear regression or algebra part, probability part. Those are very important when it comes to modeling, because all the models are there on internet. We can directly call that linear regression function or classifier and just build the model. But definitely when you deal with real world data, the data sets won't be that clean which is present in the internet. So to deal with those kind of value data sets, we do have to fine tune it to different statistical and mathematical formula and then build the model. So uh, mindset should be curious, because at the end of the day, when we are talking to client as a data scientist, he has to have in and out knowledge, and he should be able to answer each and every question which the client is putting forward to him, because he may not be able to just come up with the solution or answer which the client has told him, but definitely he should be a kind of a curious person who has knowledge in all the domains whichever he has worked upon. Next is data analyst. Role is to collect, process, and perform statistical data analysis. Mindset is intuitive data junkie, as in he should be a techie in data because he has to generate data insights. So he should get into all depths of data sets. So intuitive data junkie with high figure it out quotient. Skills is Excel. Yeah, Excel. As I told that 5-10 years back, we were not able to generate reports, charts, and do kind of a machine learning thing. But nowadays, we can easily perform machine learning on Excel as well. I did perform time series analysis on Excel, and it was like I saved a lot of time instead of doing it and hard coding it with the machine learning models. You should be aware of database systems, SQL and NoSQL based. Communication and visualization very important, because he is the person who has to communicate the data scientist, as in what insights he was able to generate. And mathematics, stats, and machine learning not very important, but yes, he should be aware of some of the mathematical aspects, because he also have to do some kind of checks, as in to get some insights. Data architect, he will be the whole and sole person who will be working with data engineer to build the backend complete structure and framework which will be used for pulling data from different sources. So he should be aware of data warehousing solutions, in-depth knowledge of database architecture, extraction, transformation, and ETL. ETL, a very common term which we use it as a data engineer. This is a phase which we do is we extract the data from different sources, we transform the data in the right format, and load the data in our database, which can be used by the BI tools to show the result. Data modeling, system development. Role is to create blueprints for data management system to integrate, centralize, protect, and maintain data sources. Mindset is inquiring ninja with a love of data architecture design patterns. So data architecture is a very experienced person. Data engineers are also very experienced, but compared to them, what data architect will do, they will just build the structure or framework at the background, and data engineers are the one which will do all the kind of processing, ETL part, and put it on the dashboard. But as of now, if you see many companies, the data engineers only turn up to be a data architect, because they gain a lot of experience over a period of time when they become a data architect. But nowadays, data engineers are becoming data analysts and data scientists as well, just because data engineers are the ones which will have all the real crux and maybe each and every minute details for the data, because they have been seeing the data right from the phase when it was raw from different sources, and they are the ones who are transforming it. So what they will do is they will develop, construct, test, and maintain architectures such as databases and large-scale processing systems. So they will build the data pipeline completely, where they will perform all the ETL part. All-purpose everyman, as in he should be very open-minded. He shouldn't be restricted that if he is working in ETL part, he cannot work as a data analyst or a data scientist. I am working in a job role of data engineer, but I build use cases or maybe POCs for my client to show some machine learning or insights as well. because our team doesn't have any data scientist. So definitely we only have to turn up to be one of them. So that is how we do, because that is the part which is very interesting to get some insights. Languages: SQL, Hive, Pig, R, MATLAB, SAS, SPSS, Python, Java, Ruby, Perl, any of those. So mainly I work on SQL, Spark, Python, Scala, and also on cloud side I deal with DevOps world like Docker, Kubernetes. Skills is SQL and NoSQL database, data modeling, ETL tools, data APIs, data warehousing solutions. So this is what data engineer do at the initial phase. Statistician is a one who will be a kind of expert in maths. He will also have a master degree in statistics or a bachelor degree, and he will closely work with data scientists. So he should be aware of R, MATLAB, SAS, SPSS, Perl, Hive, Python. He should be good in statistical theories, methodologies, data mining and machine learning, distributed computing, database systems, cloud tools. So if you see, most of them will match with data scientists because they work very closely with each other. Role is to collect, analyze, interpret qualitative as well quantitative data with statistical theories and methods. Mindset is logical, and he should be very passionate about this work. Two more, three more are database administrator. He will be a kind of a person that is ensure that the database is available to all relevant users, performing properly. So that is also a very important role, because when we data engineers are working on a data set, what we do is, if suppose I have to get the data from sources and I have to load 3 years of complete data in my database, sometimes the data sets are like, it can be like in 50-60 crores of data. So it's not easy to directly load those data into the database. And sometimes what it happens is, if you are aware of SQL concepts or maybe some databases, the table will get logged, or maybe there will be a kind of rollback which happens. So in that case, we will not be able to figure out whether our data is getting inserted into a table or it is not getting inserted. In that case, every team will have a database administrator. We have to talk to the database administrator that we are inserting the data from last 3 hours or 4 hours, and the data is not getting inserted, and I am not able to query that table at all. So what he'll do is, he will check from his side. So his role is to keep the database available to all relevant users and perform properly and keep it safe. And the talent he should have is backup and recovery, data modeling and design, distributed computing, database systems, data security, and business knowledge as well. Business analyst, as I said, he will be the one who will closely work with data analyst. He should be aware of basic tools like MS Office, because he will get all the business requirements from the business, and he will closely work with data analysts to generate some great insights. He will be the one who will be having great knowledge of data visualization tools like Tableau, Dundas, or maybe Quick View. Conscious listening and storytelling. He should be also a storyteller, because he is getting the insights from business. So he's the person who has to communicate with the data engineer and data analyst to tell him what requirement the business has. So he should be the person who should be a great storyteller. Business intelligence understanding and data modeling. Next is data analytics and manager. So data scientist is one role, and data analytics manager is one role. So manager will be kind of a person who will have leadership skills as well along with the technical skills. So if you see data analytics role, they turn out to be data analytics manager after a few years or after some years, because they have all the analytics aspects or technical aspects which they build over a period of time working with some projects. As a data scientist, they also develop the leadership skill because they work closely with the complete team. So he should have a database system skill, leadership and project management, interpersonal communication, data mining, and predictive modeling. And he should be a team person who will manage a team of analysts and data scientists. So these are the job roles which are there in the market. But yes, DevOps part which is missing over here. DevOps world is integrated into each and every job role nowadays. Salary aspects is not important, I feel. But yeah, these are the job roles. And that's it from my side. if you have any questions, please put it in the chat and let's see. Any questions, you can put it. I'll tell you whether it is required for today's session or maybe we'll be covering it tomorrow, or any question you have with data science, machine learning, big data, cloud. I'll happy to help you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, any questions on today's session? The platform is open for you all. Y'all can either post it on the chat or you can be vocal. Unmute your mic, please. Okay, Karthik, I guess there are no questions being posted. Uh,
Yeah, so one
so
thing I want to add. Yeah. So
yeah,
if we are teaching, I see that in colleges we teach these subjects a lot. So if you are aware of, like yesterday we had a news like IBM is combining with CBSE board to have AI in their 10th or maybe 12th standard itself. So if we are trying to build that culture of AI and machine learning from that very age, so in colleges I see that what we do is in our labs or in our sessions is like we try to complete the syllabus, because it's very common, like we have to finish the syllabus and ultimately the exams have to be taken. But then I tell that it's okay, we have to finish the syllabus, that's fine, but we should pick up some topics from every domain. Like if we are talking about regression, if we are talking about classification, if we are talking about clustering, we should pick up some use cases which are existing in real life, not the use cases which are already there on internet. Suppose if I talk about regression, we can take a COVID cases itself. We'll see over a period of 3 months or 4 months what are the number of use cases which are coming up, and we can directly use that model to train whether in coming months what can be the possible numbers. The accuracy is not important, but that mindset to be developed in the student is important. Until unless they are not able to build that interest, they will not be able to understand the mathematics behind it. Talk about clustering. If you see Amazon use case, they are doing a lot of work in clustering part. They are dividing all the customers into different buckets. So in the similar way, what we can do is we can pick up any data set. Maybe you will be getting a lot of feedbacks on your college websites or portals or anything. Pick up those feedbacks and just try to text classify or maybe do some text classification on top of it to understand what kind of users visit our website and what are the feedbacks we are getting. So these kind of real life situations is definitely helping students to get or build interest in that subject. Because in colleges, if a student has an interest in that subject, definitely we need not tell them to learn or do it, they will definitely do it on their own. And with AI ML coming up in the market, already they know that it's a hype and we have to do something in this field. So if we are able to generate that interest, that is more than enough. And one thing, as I started with it, if any student is coming up with any innovative idea, any research related idea, do encourage them and try to take his idea forward. Maybe in a couple of months or maybe next month, I will come up with a portal where I will start maybe delivering speeches, or maybe I'll have a boot camp for entrepreneurship or mentorship sessions, and I'll try to take their ideas and brainstorm on that, and how to build a ideation stage prototype into a business model. That is a kind of concept I am coming up maybe in the next few months. So definitely, if you all get some ideas from any student, please encourage them, because it's a great phase for India, and India is going to invest heavily in any sector. So if any idea is kind of a unique one, even if it is not unique, please try to help the student by adding your unique part to it. Yeah, that's it.
yeah, Karthik, interrupting you in between. We have a question on chat by Minajgi.
Hmm.
Question is, any good resource for learning ML?
Okay, so if you are a very beginner in machine learning, so what you can do is, uh, I will provide some links to ma'am tomorrow, so that you can follow that path. But if you are a college student or a professor, if you want, if you are a college student, definitely I'll tell you to start with statistics. I'll share some links tomorrow. And if you are a college professor, you can start with maybe getting into use cases which have been already implemented to get some insights first. Based on that, then you can start working on the machine learning part, because machine learning algorithms are like, you can call the model and you can build the model, but tuning the model is very important. That is where we lack concepts. But then yeah, I'll share some resources on for every topic, like statistics, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, NLP. I'll share each and every link with you all so that you can go through it properly. By the end of tomorrow's session, I'll have a document and I'll share it across. Yeah.
Yeah, Karthik, I guess no more questions. Uh, I would definitely take this opportunity to thank Karthik for today's session. It was very informative, and the insight of the job profiles, the hierarchies, was will definitely help the faculty to give this information to our students and help them to understand the importance of the machine learning. And guys, and all the participants and Karthik will meet again tomorrow, 5 minutes before the commencement of the session. The link will be posted to the participants. Karthik, we will be in touch just 15 to 20 minutes early and
Okay.
start with the next session.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah.
till then, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
There are lots of questions that are come up in the chat regarding the feedback. The feedback will be taken tomorrow, and based on the attendance, the teacher in me definitely is dominating, and based on the attendance, the e-certificate will be delivered. Thank you so much.